I'm going to say one thing. Fuck Trump.
I mean, he's so blatantly stupid. He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig.
What could make one of Hollywood's biggest icons call a former president a punk, dog, and fraud? Robert De Niro didn't just stop there. He went for the gut, digging into Trump's marriage and what Melania's silence might really mean. This wasn't just a celebrity rant. It was a strategic takedown that left Trump fuming. So, how did Trump react to being called an embarrassment to this country? Spoiler, it wasn't pretty. Before we move on, I would like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Robert De Niro has played his share of tough guys in iconic roles, but it turns out his sharp tongue might be his greatest weapon yet. Known for not mincing words, De Niro has carved out a reputation as one of Hollywood's most outspoken critics of Donald Trump.
I'm going to say one thing. Fuck Trump.
I owe this city a lot. And that's why it's so weird that Donald Trump is just across the street. Because he doesn't belong in my city. They bought into his bullshit. Trump bought their votes with outrageous lies and empty promises.
It's not just the bad press or snippy headlines that bother Trump. It's the fact that De Niro's words cut deeper than your average celebrity jab. This isn't the sort of Hollywood drama Trump is used to, but De Niro has never been the type to stick to the script anyway. For years, De Niro has been a fierce critic, earning him a mix of admiration and backlash. While fans cheer him on for telling it like it is, his detractors accuse him of overstepping as an actor and wading too far into politics. But for De Niro, there doesn't seem to be a line between the two. His disdain for Trump isn't casual. It's part of his public persona. He hasn't shied away from labeling Trump in the bluntest terms possible, and his words have a way of traveling far and wide.
Do you think he pretends to be dumber than he is to confuse people and make them think, no, you think he's...
No. I don't think so. No, he's more than that to me. He's sick. He is really, genuinely a sick person that somehow has been allowed it. And I'm not calling him, I'm tired of calling him names. He just can't be anywhere near the office of the presidency.
Critics might dismiss some of his statements as typical Hollywood melodrama, but love him or hate him, De Niro knows how to keep people talking. And if there's one thing De Niro knows how to deliver, it's an insult that sticks. At the peak of Trump's presidency, De Niro called him a punk, dog, pig, and fraud, among other names. These weren't just random jabs. They were pointed challenges to Trump's entire image. For someone like Trump, whose brand relies so heavily on the appearance of strength, these words weren't just offensive. They were dangerous. A reality TV mogul turned president, Trump has built a career on projecting confidence. But De Niro wasn't buying it. By choosing words that question Trump's integrity, intelligence, and even his humanity,
Look at the lame, inane things that he said. He's so stupid, he can't even say anything clever or smooth. He's a moron. It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has.
Of joy, but of relief at least, that he's potentially facing some consequences, because as you've said before, this guy's a con artist.
De Niro hit on vulnerabilities that few others dared to acknowledge so directly. But De Niro didn't stop there. At the Cannes Film Festival, standing in front of an audience packed with global power players and media heavyweights, he looked into a sea of flashing cameras and ripped into Trump. He didn't hold back, calling him a national disaster and a Philistine president. Now it's one thing to hear an actor criticize a politician on social media, but standing on an international stage and blasting a sitting US president in public? That gets noticed. It wasn't just the words themselves, it was the weight behind them. Cannes wasn't just a press junket, it was a megaphone, and De Niro used it like a pro. If this all sounds personal, it's because it was. De Niro rarely criticized Trump's policies, at least not in detail. Instead, he went straight for the gut. Trump's character.
Yeah, he's so stupid. He's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't do his homework, doesn't care, thinks he's gaming society, doesn't pay his taxes. I mean, he's so blatantly stupid. He's a punk, he's a dog, he's a pig.
That's what made his attacks so memorable. They went after the man behind the podium, not the figurehead on the campaign posters. De Niro didn't just question if Trump was a good president. He questioned if he was a decent person at all. That's where Trump, whose ego has always hovered close to the surface, couldn't help but take notice. And nothing seemed to light that fuse quite like De Niro questioning Trump's marriage. When De Niro hinted that Melania's silence and public absence said more than her words ever could, it wasn't just a criticism. It was a threat to the image Trump seemed so desperate to protect. The thing about De Niro is that he knows his way around a stage. His words at Cannes weren't an accident. He didn't throw out adjectives like fraud because they sounded good. No, this was deliberate. Every biting comment underlined a bigger theme. Trump wasn't untouchable. The cracks in his public facade could be exposed, and De Niro was happy to do the heavy lifting. And the best part? By the time Trump or his supporters scrambled to respond, the damage was already done. Pixelated clips of De Niro's speeches spread online, piling up views. Late-night hosts picked up his insults, and hashtags turned his critiques into viral moments. If Trump thought lashing out at De Niro would silence him, he quickly learned that it only handed the actor a larger stage to shine on.
I owe this city a lot. And that's why it's so weird that Donald Trump is just across the street. Because he doesn't belong in my city.
Last 8 years, we've heard you talk about the former president. You have called him a fraud, a con artist. You've said he's...
The
Bottom line is, it's Biden versus Trump. We want to live in a world that we want to live in and enjoy living in, or live in a nightmare. Vote for Trump, and you'll get the nightmare.
Trump's defenders often chalked up De Niro's comments to Hollywood elitism, arguing that actors should stay in their lane. But the more they tried to downplay him, the bigger De Niro's voice seemed to grow. For every soundbite Trump threw out calling De Niro washed up or low IQ, there was another viral clip of De Niro delivering a fiery one-liner that landed like a knockout punch. Trump thrives on attention, but in this back and forth, De Niro held the upper hand. He didn't look rattled. He looked like a calm, confident mob boss who had just figured out where to hit his rival where it hurt the most. De Niro's approach turned him from celebrity critic to something more unique. The guy who managed to get under Trump's skin. It wasn't luck. It was strategy. And no one was more outraged than Trump himself. As bold as De Niro's words were, Trump's reaction took it to another level entirely. Trust me, his response wasn't exactly designed to reassure anyone. What happens when someone finally rattles Donald Trump's cage? Well, the Donald doesn't exactly take it gracefully. After Robert De Niro's fiery critique went viral, complete with punches like punk, dog, and fraud, Trump flipped the script in classic Trump fashion. He hurled insults. De Niro wasn't met with a thoughtful rebuttal or a counter-argument. Instead, Trump shot back with lines that sounded more like they came from the locker room than the former leader of the free world. He called De Niro washed up, threw in low IQ for good measure, and even described the actor as punch-drunk, like he was auditioning for a bad roast. But here's the thing. Those insults said more about Trump than they ever did about De Niro. Let's break it down.
I just don't understand. People could buy it. I just don't know. It's all an act in a certain way. It's all out of insecurity. He's deeply, deeply insecure. He's created some new language as far as describing somebody in his mental condition.
Instead of defending his record as president or addressing any of the actual criticisms, Trump zeroed in on personal attacks. And why is that? Probably because tackling De Niro's words head-on would have required some, let's call it self-awareness. When De Niro went for Trump's character, calling out his arrogance, his dishonesty, even the cracks in his marriage, he didn't leave any wiggle room. Trump couldn't debate policies or play the usual fake news card. This wasn't about politics. It was about a bruised ego. And if there's one thing Trump can't resist, it's rushing to defend his image, even when it only makes things worse. Trump's response was ironic, to say the least. The very names he slung at De Niro, like low IQ, sounded eerily familiar because they're the same kind of digs people throw at Trump himself. Bully, insecure, unable to handle criticism. These are the labels that have followed him for years. And what does he do when he's backed into a corner? He lashes out in ways that only prove the critics right. So when he called De Niro punch-drunk or dismissed him as irrelevant, it just came across as a whole lot of projecting.
He's a what's it? Tammy Faye and the other one.
Yes.
It's the same thing, you know. Give us your money. We're going to save you. Yeah, televangelist.
Yeah.
He is a malignant narcissist. He's a socio-psychopath.
Seriously, think about it. Every time Trump clapped back, it felt less like he was defending himself and more like he was stamping a neon sign across his forehead that read, "I'm totally rattled." Now here's where things get even more interesting. De Niro didn't just take aim at Trump himself. He also put the spotlight on Melania Trump, or rather, her conspicuous absence. By bringing her silence into the discussion, De Niro touched a nerve that few others had dared to approach so bluntly. For years, Melania's tendency to stay out of the political spotlight has been framed as a personal choice. But after De Niro started connecting the dots, it became impossible to ignore the questions swirling around their marriage. Why didn't she speak up? What did her lack of public presence really say about their relationship? Or about Trump as a husband? Sure, it's all speculation, but the silence was deafening. Trump's response to this? Well, that was the plot twist everyone saw coming. He didn't address it. Of course, he wouldn't. Talking about Melania directly, especially in response to De Niro's comments, would have only added fuel to the fire. Instead, he sidestepped the marriage remarks entirely and made it about De Niro being a Hollywood has-been. Bold strategy? Maybe. Effective? Not at all. Because if you ignore the elephant in the room while screaming at the guy who pointed it out, you don't look strong. You look cornered. Back on the public stage, De Niro played his role brilliantly, keeping his cool while turning up the heat. The contrast between the two was impossible to miss. De Niro was precise, calm, almost surgical in his criticism. Trump, on the other hand, scrambled like a man whose mask was cracking in real time. Melania's silence may have spoken volumes, but Trump's wild, almost cartoonish outbursts practically screamed insecurity. The public and media reactions were split in that usual Trump-era way. His hardcore supporters stuck to the script, defending him as always, labeling De Niro as just another radical liberal actor. But there was no denying the unease, even among some Republicans. Not everyone seemed thrilled with Trump's choice of words or his inability to rise above a celebrity feud. For many Americans watching this play out, Trump's meltdown only fueled the perception that De Niro had struck a very raw nerve. While De Niro scored points for wit and authenticity, Trump's tirade felt, well, unhinged. And the more he doubled down, the less presidential he appeared. If anything, Trump's response might have done more for De Niro's argument than the actor ever could have hoped for. By choosing spite over substance, Trump validated almost every critique De Niro made. This wasn't just a thin-skinned reaction. It was a full-blown unraveling. It exposed the very insecurities De Niro was hinting at in his speech, from Trump's reliance on bravado to the cracks in his supposedly perfect personal life. At the end of the day, this wasn't just about trading insults. It was about what those insults revealed. De Niro didn't win this exchange because he shouted louder. He won because he played it smart. Trump, on the other hand, walked right into the trap, proving once again that when it comes to keeping his cool, the so-called king of the art of the deal is more like a bull in a china shop. So what does this all mean for Trump's carefully constructed image? Because whether he likes it or not, the damage was already done, and no amount of name-calling could patch it up. Robert De Niro's words weren't just insults fired off for shock value. They were surgical strikes aimed at the core of Trump's identity. By picking apart Trump's character and public image, he exposed the contradiction between the strongman persona and the fragile ego underneath. What makes this whole thing remarkable is how easily one actor holding up a mirror unraveled the carefully controlled performance. This isn't just a feud. It's a reminder that truth has its own kind of power. If De Niro could shake the foundation, imagine the chaos if more people stopped pretending the emperor was wearing clothes.